Hi everyone, my name is Paula and I've been an actress since I was about 16 off and on, and a yoga teacher for the last 20 years, and most recently I've been certified as a yoga health coach. And you're probably thinking, I've heard of a health coach, but what the heck is a yoga health coach? So to make it simple, which I'm going to really try and do in this video, is Ayurveda is basically the sister science to yoga. And it really means aligning ourselves with nature. And part of Ayurveda, a big part, is Dinacharya, which are the 10 habits, which are the daily rhythm, like the daily rhythm that the sun, that the moon, that our earth, the seasons go through. We do too as human beings. So I hate to tell you, as much as sometimes we like to deny it, but we are a part of nature. There is really no denying it. So for many years, I did try and deny that I was a part of nature. I worked in production as a costume stylist, and I was burning the candle on both ends in my 20s and in my 30s. I then moved to New York City, which of course New Yorkers just habitually burn the candle on both ends. And then I became a mom, and I now have 2 kids. And being a mom, often our own self-care practices kind of fall to the wayside, and our schedules seem like they're out of our control. Never mind juggling a career and life and all that goes along with that. So it got to the point where I just wasn't taking the kind of care of myself that I knew I should be taking. I knew that I felt low energy. I wasn't really feeling in an alignment with my dharma, which is the yogis call dharma, which is purpose. I was feeling overwhelmed, a little stressed out, very overstimulated, and I wasn't really in charge of my health or my schedule. And it actually took my amazing father passing away 3 years ago very suddenly for me to actually stop in my tracks and look at my life and make a really conscious choice as to how I wanted to proceed. Like, who did I want to become? What was the next phase of me? Because I very easily could have just gone on that trajectory and down that rabbit hole, and I knew that wasn't where I wanted to go. So I had to make a really conscious choice about how I was living my life, not just for me, but at this point for my family, and how I wanted to establish routines for my kids, the habits I wanted my kids to grow up with. Was it to see mom stressed out and overscheduled and running around to auditions and not feeling good about herself and all that stuff, right? So I really had to make some changes. And so for me, when I became a yoga health coach, first of all, I was sort of put into this path, I believe, in a really beautiful way. And it kind of fell into place after being a yoga teacher for so long. And so the habits of Dinacharya have been habits that I've really been working on aligning my life with. And they're not easy. And there's 10 of them, not just 4. I'm going to give you guys 4 tips. And let's just stop now because I want you to sign up if you can. Please sign up for my email list. And I will, every week I will give you a little bit more information on the 10 daily habits of Dinacharya that are going to help you on so many different levels. So for me, they really have. And they've helped me even with my work situation and for auditioning, and even now, even more so for helping others through a path that I've kind of gone through. And I really, really understand it's hard to be an actor, and we put ourselves out there, and the schedule is crazy and it's erratic, and a lot of us work late nights, and we're not used to doing things in a way that at all align with the daily rhythms of nature. So I'm going to give you 4, and I'm just going to start now, and I'm going to give you just little snippets. So hopefully if it piques your curiosity, you'll sign up for my list and you'll get a lot more information. So the very, very first habit is eat an earlier, lighter dinner. And I know you're going, whoa, what does that mean? I eat with my friends at 8 o'clock at night. I work in restaurants. We don't eat till 9 o'clock at night. I don't go to bed until 2 o'clock in the morning, right? So that's going very against nature. And so what happens is when we eat a late, heavy dinner, we really get in the way of our own digestion, because digestion happens on the north-south axis, right? I'm going to say it, mouth to anus. So if we eat a late dinner or we eat a really heavy dinner and then we go horizontal 1 hour later, we're really putting our bodies in a really difficult situation where they can't really digest, right? So we have restless sleeps, we have heartburn, indigestion. We wake up feeling heavy and lethargic. We roll out of bed, hit the alarm clock, and grab a coffee to get us going, right? Not really the best way to start our day. So Eating an earlier, lighter dinner actually also means if you're going to have a smaller dinner, the most important time of the day is lunchtime, right? So we'll just back up a little bit. First of all, when the sun is the highest in the sky, and like I've been saying, we align with nature because we're a part of nature, that's also when our digestion, our Agni, our inner fire, is at its highest. So it's the lunch. Have lunch with your friends. Make lunch the main meal, right? Give your lunch the attention it needs to prepare, or prepare it the night before so you have a beautiful lunch where you can sit down, get the fats you need. If you eat protein. If you like dessert, eat your dessert at lunch. This is when your digestion is really working full on, right? So supper is just a little something. It's a supplemental to lunch. It's a soup, it's a salad, it's something light. It's not a big, heavy, elaborate meal. And that's cultural. We've learned that. So this is tapping into some of these habits that maybe even some of you have been raised with. Like, we wait for dad to get home at night and we eat a big dinner and then we go to bed full. That's just what we've always done. That's what my grandparents did. That's what I'm doing, right? So starting to look at why you do what you do, right? So it's not just changing habits and it's not about just creating new habits. It's really about looking at the ones that we already have set in place, and it's about replacing them, right? And this, guys, it doesn't just happen overnight. You just don't make the decision, oh, I'm going to have an earlier, later dinner, right? But even dialing back, even in 15-minute increments, when you eat dinner, say you eat it at 9 o'clock, dial it back to 8:45. See how that goes. Slowly, little Kaizen steps. We call them Kaizen, meaning 1% improvements in the direction of your goal, 1% every day. So we're not taking this cold turkey sort of big chunk effect, right? We're actually just taking small little bits at a time. So that's tip number 1, eat an earlier, lighter dinner. Tip number 2 kind of wraps up and rolls into tip number 1. If we eat an earlier, lighter dinner, we're probably going to get tired earlier, right? Because our system is starting to wind down. We've had time to digest our meal. So again, as the sun is going down, you'll notice, start to pay attention. This is when you start to get tired, right? This is when children start to get cranky. If you have kids, you know that witching hour, and if you miss the window, you're kind of screwed, right? It's the same thing for you. What happens as adults, though, instead, is we start to get tired and we're not ready to go to bed. We don't want to go to bed. We want to get things done, right? We want to do the things we didn't get to do throughout the day, whatever the case. Work on our business, be with our spouse, eat a big, heavy, beautiful dinner, go out for dinner, socialize, whatever the case. But when you start to get tired, your body gives you signs of fatigue. You start to yawn. You start to feel tired. Your eyelids get heavy. Right? Start to really listen and honor those signs of fatigue. So instead, like I was saying, instead of having a caffeine or sugar or alcohol or turning on the computer, which is extremely stimulating, start to notice these signs of fatigue and honor them. Start to wind things down. Create a nice routine around bedtime. Ideally, lights out by 10. And some of you just went, what? That's insane. That's when life starts. Ideally. Right? Ideally, we're lights out by 10. That's when the sun is down in most parts of the world at different times, obviously. Right? So then we get a chance to have a good night's sleep, 7 to 8 hours, and wake up when the sun is ready to wake up. So I know this is a lot of information for a number of you, and I'd love for you to hook into my mailing list. I'm attaching a tip sheet so you can have some of this information and just start to get curious. So if it's lights out by 10, make sure that you turn the computer off at least an hour to an hour and a half beforehand. Take that time to just wind yourself down, to just take care of yourself. So maybe that means reading a very uneventful book, or taking a bath, or even going for a walk. Just really starting to kind of wind down and prepare yourself, prepare your body for sleep. We've all heard the saying, early to bed, early to rise makes a man or woman healthy, wealthy, and wise. Well, it's kind of true, right? So if we're shooting for 10 o'clock, okay, if we're shooting ideally for 10 o'clock, make sure that you take some time, dial it back, like make sure the computer is off at least an hour to an hour and a half before lights out. And create a nice evening routine for yourself. Maybe this is where you fit in a little bit of your meditation. Maybe this is where you take a nice bath. Maybe this is where you read a very uneventful book, so not a book that's stimulating. Right? Maybe this is where you just start to visualize and plan and even journal for your next day. Because ideally we want to start creating the schedule that we actually have 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, which is really what we need, right? And we want to be able to wake up early in the morning when the mind is the most creative, right? This morning time, and I'll talk about it in the next habit, is called Brahma Muhurta, and this is when consciousness is the most expansive. So for you creatives, which I know most of you are, you really want to tap into this time before 6 a.m. in the morning. So habit number 3 is start your day right. So when we've had a good night's sleep, right, we're already investing in our next day. So we ideally, like I said, we want to wake up before 6 a.m. And there's certain things that we do to get the day going. The first thing I do is scrape my tongue. I won't get into it. It's not even that long, but we'll talk about this later on, give you guys more information. Second thing I do is a hydrate. So drinking at least a quart of room temperature water just to flush the channel. Basically, we're trying to stimulate elimination. That's the third thing, is you want to eliminate. We want to clean out the gunk in the trunk, right? We all know what it's like, or maybe we don't, but whatever, we can imagine to be constipated. It's not a good thing, right? We want to clean out. In the morning, we want to have a good elimination. The next thing I do is I meditate in the morning. And it's taken me a while to get to this place. It took me a long time. I now have a 20-minute meditation practice. But it started with, like I said, just a cushion by my bed, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, building. I kept moving and moving until I created a space for my meditation practice to really hook into consciousness, right? To really just sort of settle into your breath, to begin to realize and to notice the fluctuations of your mind, and to realize that you're really not your thoughts. And this is really important too when you're auditioning and just working, is to, we get all these crazy thoughts in our head, and to be able to realize that we're not our thoughts. We get to witness our thoughts, we get to watch, we get to listen, right? But that's not who we really are. So when we're hearing diminishing thoughts, or we're not good enough, or I'm never going to get this job, or they're not going to like me, all that stuff, it's just chatter. It's all it is. So the same thing when we're sitting in our meditation practice, right? And we hear and we start to see and feel the mind kind of going off into these different places, that we get to just notice it. The first thing is to just notice and come back to the breath, come back to the present moment, right? And this way we get to actually, after my meditation, what I do is I have a breath body practice. So for 20 minutes, shooting for 20 minutes. Sometimes if I'm in a rush and I don't have the time, it's 5 minutes, but I'm establishing habits, right? We're just creating new habits. So whether it's 1 or whether it's 20 minutes, we're just beginning to piece together and put into place a new habit. The last thing I do is, not the last thing, but the next thing I do is, like I said, a little workout, really getting out of the sleepy head and into the body, whether it's a yoga practice, a high intensity training practice, interval training practice, or I go for a walk down the street, or for a little run, or up and down the stairs in my neighborhood, right? Just getting the heart moving, getting into the body, taking at least up to 20 minutes just to sort of get yourself into your physical body and space. And then I always make sure I have at least 10 to 20 minutes to sit down and to plan my day, to consciously decide how I want my day to go, to remember to reflect on my big goals, my yearly goals, my monthly goals, and then what needs to get done today, the logistics, the things that just have to get done, and then all the little things that I need to get done that are in alignment with my goals for the bigger picture. Habit number 4, I've touched on this a number of times, is just sitting in silence, aka meditation, just training your mind to be still and remembering that the mind is like any other muscle in your body and it needs to be trained. So again, creating a habit around sitting, whether it's 1, 2, 5, 20, whatever length of time you can carve into, and even setting a trigger to remind you. So figure out where in your day it works, whether it's in the morning or in the evening. Right? And just the more you do this, the more it's going to become something that you do automatically, right? It becomes an automated habit. So that's it. I hope you found some of this information useful. And if you're curious, again, please sign up for my list. And I'm hoping I will start to send out an email a week to give you more information on the 10 daily habits. And please don't forget to download the tip sheet that I've attached. And here's to a happy, healthy, and very successful and love-filled 2018.